I finished, I read it once, then I read it again, from the beginning to the end. And when I finished to read it the second time, I decided I would keep Shabbos. I didn't know exactly what Shabbos was, but I decided to keep Shabbos. And in the morning, I told my friend, I told her my story. I realized that she will not put me in the crazy house. So I told her my story. And she said, the experience you had, it's called a near-death experience. And I'm telling you this because when we have been in America, was published a research that was made here by Dr. Modi. I don't know if you heard his name. And he interviewed lots of people who had this experience, and that's how it's called. So first of all, I was very excited to realize that I'm not the only person in the world who had this experience, and that I'm not crazy. And you know, when I had the checks in the hospital, one of the doctors was a psychiatrist, and he asked me if I saw a light. And so then I realized that he asked me this because the researches were made about this. But since I didn't want to get in any trouble, I said to him, no, I didn't see anything. So I asked her where I can get more books like this, because I didn't know what was Torah books. And she said you would go to Geula Mea Sharim in Jerusalem. You find many books like this. So I went there and I bought lots of books. And you can realize from this story the great ignorance that was in Israel by this time about religion. The young generation. I said to my father one day, my father asked, when I started to become religious, and my father asked me, how come you didn't know anything about religion? I said to him, you never taught me. And he said, well, I thought that it's so obvious that everybody knows about it. I said to him, what do you mean? I mean, when I was brought up, I was never taught about it. Nobody taught me anything. So I took these books, I went back home. We lived in the Galilee by this time. And I told Chaim, when I came to the house, I told him, I decided that I want to keep Shabbos. And then he said, are you crazy? Now when I told him that I went out of the body, he didn't think I was crazy. That makes you understand the atmosphere that was in Israel by this time. Today it's different because there's television, there are lots of religious people on the streets. But by this time, I never saw a religious person in the street. Only if I went to Mea Sharim and Geula in Jerusalem. There were few in Tel Aviv, you know, but that's all. So he said, Chaim says, we don't know what when we do in Shabbos. We don't know nothing about Shabbos. So I said, first of all, we start and we read these books. We say what is in the books. So the first Shabbos, we knew that we can't drive, we can't light the fire, and the electricity. That's the only things we knew. So we sit down and we start to read the books, and it was very interesting. And also about the Siddur, you know, I read the Siddur, but I didn't know that I had to pray. I mean, I didn't know it was a prayer book. And I didn't know that's what you do in the synagogue. I had no idea. So we read the books. It was very interesting. I brought some Kabbalah books, you know, some very interesting books. So he said, Chaim said, it's very interesting. And the next Shabbos, you know, I don't know who said this, that if you keep 2 Shabbos, then redemption will come. You know, if the Jews will keep 2 Shabbos. So that was the second Shabbos. So maybe our redemption came after this second Shabbos, because on the second Shabbos, Chaim said, we had neighbors that they made a kiddush every Friday. And when they saw that we start keep Shabbos, they said, oh, this Shabbos, second Shabbos, you come to our house for Kiddush. You learn what is a Kiddush. And then we came to the house for Kiddush. And after this, Chaim said to me, well, it was very nice, you know, we had a nice Shabbos, so, okay, but we need someone to guide us. We have nobody to guide us. And then I had this feeling, and I said to Chaim, there is one person who can guide us, but he's not in Israel, he's in America, I don't know who it is. And Chaim said, you go to the rabbi of Akko and ask him. So I went, Sunday I went to Akko, and to Rabbi Yosef Yashar. I think he's still the Rav of Akko until today. And I came to his office. And he looked at me, and you know, it was the summer, it was very hot, and I go like, you know, I'm not religious. And I start to tell him my story, he looks at me and he said, right away, after 2-3 sentences, he says, I can't help you. And I said to him, I know you can't help me, but I want to know who can help me. I come here to ask you, who can help me? And he said to me, there's one Rebbe that can help you, but he's not in Israel, he is in New York. So I said to him, this is the one I'm looking for. Who is this Rebbe? And he said, it's the Lubavitcher Rebbe. So I said to him, okay, I want his phone number and all the details. He gave me all the details of the Rebbe, and I went back home, and we wrote a letter to the Rebbe. And by this time, there was no fax, no email, no internet. So we called the Rebbe's office, and we tell them we read the letter. And after 2 days, we got a telephone back from the Rebbe's office. And the Rebbe asked us, tell us a few things that he wants us to do. And one of the things he said, which I wrote in my book, that I was complaining because the way I was brought up, I never knew anything about Jewish life and nothing. I wasn't told about it. And by this time, I had already realized that what I said to the light, that I didn't live the life that I had to live, it means that I didn't live a Jewish life, which I was supposed to live. And so the Rebbe answered to me that I was getting a lot from the kibbutz. And the Rebbe wished me that I would be able to give back to the society what I was getting in the kibbutz. And this is true because in the kibbutz they were very, they gave a very, very good education. We learned a lot, we knew a lot, we learned a lot. And so the Rebbe said that I should give back to the society at least a little bit of what I received in the kibbutz. And we were very impressed by the Rebbe's answer, and we started to do what the Rebbe asked. And by this time, we also started to learn Tanya. Now, nobody taught us. We just bought the Tanya book, and I think there is a Tanya book with the explanation by Rabbi Weinberg. Maybe you have it here. And we start to learn it. And we learned together the Tanya for 2 years. And after a while, we moved. We also learned the Rebbe Siches, you know, with Vaduyot and everything. After 2 years, we moved from the Galilee because my husband had a job in the center of Israel, so we moved to the Sharon area. We bought a house in a moshav in the Sharon. And when we got there, we decided to open a Chabad house. This was the time that the Rebbe started to ask. He asked to open Chabad houses. And by this time, there were not many Chabad houses. What year did you start here?
77.
77. So that was before us. We started on, I think it was 84?
85.
85. And by this time, there was only 24 Chabad houses in Israel. Today, there are hundreds. And, but, you know, we were not from religious houses. And maybe we didn't have a very great Jewish education. But we were going, I mean, the Rebbe asked, so we did what the Rebbe asked, and when we started, I started to teach Tanya, and we did all the mivtzorim that Rebbe asked to do. And after 1 year, 2 years, started to come many young yeshiva bochers, you know, young students. Students of yeshiva in Israel. They start to come to our area. And then we decided that it's time for us to go to a Frum community. So, because we had no support, you know. When you come from family, then you have the support of the family and the friends and yeshiva where you learn and everything. We had none of this, so we, by this time, we went to live in Chabad, which was about 22 years ago. And there's something else I didn't tell you, that when we started to become Frum, one day I was in Jerusalem. I don't know if you heard of Rabbi Nissim Yagen. You didn't hear of it. You heard it in Jerusalem. So we were close to Rabbi Nissim Yagen, and when he heard that my father doesn't have it feeling, right away he told his son, "You go now, you get it feeling for father." And he brought me a very nice feeling, and I gave it to my father. And when my father saw that feeling, he was already 6, 8 years old. He was so excited. He started to put feeling, and he knew how to put feeling because he was from a Frum family. So he started to put feeling, and my mother made the house kosher, and my father started to keep Shabbos. And my father lived until 98, so he was putting tefillin until the last days, you know, of his life. So he put tefillin about 30 years. Okay, so now I want to, if you have any questions, yeah.
How did you know that your life was in darkness? After your soul left the body, how do you know it wasn't good? Something told you, somebody
no,
told you it wasn't good?
When I saw my life, the way I lived, I realized, I knew that it was not the right life, that I had to live another way. I knew that was not the life I had to live, and I felt a great...
You didn't know any better, so how did you know it wasn't good?
That's what I felt. You know, the neshama, you know, the word above is called Olam HaEmet. It's the world of truth.
So you saw it.
So once you get there, then and you see, you realize what was good and what was not good. You know, so I just realized that was not the right life. I had to live another life. And when we started to become Frum, you know, then I was so excited. Maybe you ask Chaim what happened to him, because I was so excited. I come home and I want to keep Shabbos and I want to learn Torah, and I was so excited. And you know, in the beginning, when I started to pray, I was getting so excited. I felt when I said Shema Yisrael, I was burning, you know, with love to God. I don't have it now today, but I had it for a while. Today I pray like everybody, you know. You pray and you think, oh, I have to make this cake, and you hear all these stories. You know what I'm talking about. But at this time I was so excited, and he was looking at me. He didn't know what happened. And so I knew right away, when I read the Siddur, I knew right away that that is the life I have to live. Okay, another question? Okay.
How long, you said it was only 4 minutes probably that you were on the ground before you came to. Well, how long did it seem to you when, you know, being up there with the light? Did you have any sense of time?
No, as I told you, I knew when I went out of the tunnel and I got into the light, I knew that it is not the world that I knew. It's something totally different. So it was above time. It was above everything that was here. Okay, you know, there's one question that people always ask me, how do I know it wasn't a dream? Maybe I had a dream, and I woke up. And I say that when you dream, you wake up, you know you were dreaming. But if you have a trip to Israel, you come back, you know it was a trip to Israel. You know? So I knew it wasn't a dream. And many people describe this experience, and nobody thinks it was a dream. Yeah.
Did you see anything there that identified to Judaism at all? I mean, you know, people from all different religions, you know, have this experience. So I'm just wondering, did you see anything from the Torah, anything that identified to?
I didn't. Okay, I'll explain it like this. It's not that I didn't see anything, something from the Torah, but when I start to learn Torah, you know, like I can learn the Rebbe Sichos and the Maimers and the Tanya and you know, and it's very easy for me to understand. Many times I also teach, you know, and many times I explain what we are learning from my experience. And if you take a regular person, you know, like my husband, who didn't have this Chaim, he didn't have this experience, he has to sit down and learn and really understand what it is. Now, when I read it, I say, oh, that's what I saw, and that's what I felt. So maybe that's the difference. And I don't know, you know, I think that when I read the experiences of people who are not Jewish, who have this experience, I think there's lots of confusion in their description. I mean, they see the light, and they see things, but they don't see in a third body, like I saw. I saw it was her. They don't say this. They said it was I. Because they have one neshama, we have two. Okay? We have two neshamas, and that's the main difference that is in my story, yeah.
So whatever you saw, whatever you thought about God,
Yeah.
yes or no, did that change it?
I didn't think it was God. When it happened to me, I didn't think it was God.
Do you now?
I don't know, because what we call God, I mean, we say God generally, but the world above us has many descriptions. You know, every word is something different. So there is the unbounded, which we call atzmut in Hebrew, and I don't think it was this, but it was somewhere from the world above us. You know, in every world there are few worlds above us, which is described in the Kabbalah or Chassidus. And I guess I was in a world above us, but I don't know which one of them. I don't know. But because every world we get above this world, there is a greater appearance of the light. You know, and there's what we call Havaya, which is the light that surrounds the created worlds, because there is a world that are above the created worlds, which I don't think anybody gets there. And this will be revealed in the redemption. And I can't wait for this day to happen. I'm so excited. You know, I remember one day I was, it was before Pesach. I think it was about more than 20, about 25 years ago. I was going with my daughter. I was driving in the car. And I told her that I think it was the Gerer Rebbe in Israel. He told the Hasidim, it was before Pesach, a few Hasidim came to visit him. He told them, don't go back, stay here for Pesach. It was a big story in Israel because everybody were sure that redemption will come this Pesach. You know? And I was so excited. I was telling my daughter, yo, Mashiach is coming. She was a little girl, and I was so excited. I went into תנועה,
bumper.
What? On the bumper? Yeah. I was in the car on the bumper. And there was a policeman standing there. And he came to me and said, what happened? What was? I said, maybe there's a problem with the car. And my daughter was laughing, you know. Because I always get so excited when somebody talks about redemption, or I'm talking about it. It's very, very exciting. I mean, we don't understand it's going to be extraordinary, something incredible.
Are you afraid of death right now?
That's a good question. She asked if I'm afraid of death. I'll tell you a story. My parents were very, very sick. My father passed away 10 months ago, and my mother 2 years ago. And I was with them the last years. My mother was 10 months very, very sick before she passed away. But since my parents knew my story that I told them, they were not afraid. Only my mother was not afraid. She was just telling me that I want to live. She said, I have things to do in this world. And I said to her, Mother, I know you have things to do, but she was already 91. And I told her, you're so sick, and if Mashiach will not come, then you know, everybody will leave the body. And then when she knew, 2 months before she passed away, she told me, I'm going to pass away. I know already. And but she wasn't afraid. I mean, she was just, you know, and that's how she passed away. She was just very calm, you know, and it was the same with my father. He passed away in the year after her, and he was very calm. And in this place where it was kind of hospice, there was a lady there, and an old lady. She was also very sick, and she was shouting all the time. And one day I came to her and asked her, why do you shout? She said, because I'm going to die. So I said to her, but everybody is going to die. Why do you shout? And she said, because it hurts. I'm afraid. No, she said, I'm afraid. I said, why are you afraid? She said, because it hurts. And I said, it doesn't hurt. Who told you it hurts? And she said, how do you know? And I told her, because I had this experience. I've been out of my body once, and I came back, and it's not, it doesn't hurt. Don't worry. And she was so thankful, you know, she held me and she said, I'm so grateful for you that you told me that, because I was so afraid, and now I'm not afraid anymore. So, you know, the question if I'm afraid is not exactly the right, because I'm not afraid, but on the other hand, I still didn't finish my mission here, you know, like my mother said when she was 91. So, but I know it doesn't hurt anyway, and yeah.
You know that the soul doesn't hurt.
It hurts before, because if somebody is sick, it hurts. When you are in the body, it hurts, but when you leave the body.
Right, so the soul may not hurt, but you don't know about the body.
About the body, I don't know.
The body could hurt.
I don't know. But I only know, I only can tell you that when.
The body hurts. The body has its own life also.
If you're only in touch with the neshama.
I understand, but it's not to say that it doesn't.
I can only tell you that when my.
You say yourself, I go,
When my parents passed away, they were not fear, you know, they were not afraid. I mean, so they were very calm, and
that's
also
a different point.
see the body. And
Still,
also the body was calm.
Still, it's a natural feeling, I mean, to be afraid of death, isn't it? I mean, isn't it something that
Yes, it's very natural, because
Just because you want to be there.
yeah, you want to be here, you want to do your mission here.
Right.
So you don't want to live, and also it's very hard to separate from the people that you love. And I remember my grandmother, before she died, she was from a Kabbalistic family. So she told me, I was 15, and she said, I'm going to pass away. It was 3 years after my grandfather passed away. She said, I'm going to pass away, and don't worry, because I'm going to a very nice place. and I'm going to meet your grandfather, and I want to go there. And when she passed away, I thought, well, okay, that's what she wanted, it's okay. You know, and when I saw people, you know, they're crying, they're sorry, and I asked them, why, what's the problem? She wanted to go. I mean, she wanted to go. So, but I think it's very important to to talk to people before they pass away. You know, they're going to pass away, and you have to explain them where they're going. And so it's much easier, I think.
Just got another question. So what you experienced was a certain stage, but the other stage would have been, if you would have stayed there, probably went to the heavenly court, right?
Yeah.
And then the heavenly court, then, you know, everyone's got to pay for the, you know, they're rewarded for the good and, you know, for the bad as well. So the question is, you were at an early stage, so
Yeah.
it's not the whole picture,
Yeah.
right?
I know someone in Israel who was in the heavenly court. He came back. He was in the army in the Starvim, you know, they wear Arab clothes, they go to Arab villages. He was a commander of this unit, and he had a very bad accident, and he had this experience. And he was in heavenly court, and he came back. And he said that in heavenly court you are being judged for everything you did, every little thing. He said that he was going to visit his grandmother, and he used to talk on the phone without asking her permission. And he was judged for this, you know, for very little things. And and he also, he asked, you said no. So we have to be very aware. Yeah, you didn't think about it. You have to be very aware of what we do. It's everything is.
I have a question.
Yeah.
When you had that accident, I think a piece of wood hit you in the head.
Yeah. It was very heavy. It was more than a ton.
How old were you?
I was 22.
The reason I was asking was I had the very same thing happen to me when I was 9 years old.
Wow.
And
You remember?
Very
He's
similar.
still not back to himself. He's not back.
Exactly what I told
Did you see a light? Bernie, did you see the light?
Hmm?
Did you see the light?
Very similar to that. Not exactly, but yeah. I was up there floating around looking at them taking care of me. The Kadisha were getting me ready. And
Bernie, next Saturday night, save your
I had the newsreel. I was all my life for 9 years. Very similar. I drowned.
How
I
many years
breathed
ago?
in the water.
Bernie, how many years ago was that?
He was 9.
3.5. No, I was 9.
He was 9 years old.
Age is 93.
93.
Yeah, I was 87 years. I was 9, it was 87 years ago.
Wow.
Before electricity.
Very good notes.
The question is, once the wood came into your head and you fell down and your body got separated from its soul and you were there somewhere floating, and then you came back. So when you came back, obviously the soul got reunited with the body. That I understand, but what about the medical aspect? You went to the hospital or the doctor?
Yeah, I was twice in the hospital, but all the checks were okay. I mean,
Nothing happened.
yeah, I had this blood all over my face, you know.
Yeah, but that's it, but nothing,
No.
concussion, nothing.
No. I was a student by this time. I managed to finish my studies also.
It was more than a time, you said?
Yeah. because it was very big piece of wood, and it fell from the sixth floor.
In other words, when the
It's a scaffold.
Foundation.
You know the woods that are on the
Why did they say
scaffolds?
you're fine, and then you can go home?
Because my skull
It's
is
Israel. Right, okay, no, the answer.
What?
I said it's Israel.
That's right.
Israel is
No
very
one
good.
like.
You probably have to stitch it up.
In the 70s?
What?
No one took an ambulance to the hospital?
Right,
No, I worked.
Oh my God.
Because there was no cellular telephones by this time. And there was, it's not today, it's 40 years ago. I mean, it was another world this time.
So people standing around just watched you stand up?
Yeah, they watched me and they shouted, but when the construction came down and they took me, then they went away. But I was very lucky because the professor told me that, he said to me, I never thought about it, he said to me, you had a miracle. He said, I never saw somebody who had such a strike, you know, and the skull doesn't break.
Does everyone who has that out-of-body experience have that similar journey, or are there some dramatic differences? Like, does everyone see a light?
Yeah.
Does everyone see a
Everyone see almost similar. Some people they meet other people who passed away before, but I didn't meet nobody. It's almost the same.
Did you see any family members who were part of the world where you got there?
Family?
No,
I didn't see nobody.
People said that they
Yeah,
saw
I know people who told me that they saw people.
I know that you said it was like 3 minutes, or how many minutes?
It can't be more than 4 minutes, but I don't know how long it was. Maybe it was 1 minute,
Very
maybe half a
similar.
minute, I don't know.
Very similar.
Yeah, I don't know.
Bernie, write a book.
Okay, so I will tell you a story. If you don't have more questions, I will tell you a story that we've heard when we've been in Buenos Aires a few years ago. I told you that my mother came from a very Kabbalistic family, and her uncle was a chief rabbi in Damascus and then in Tzfat, and he established the Mekubalim Yeshiva in Jerusalem. And he also started the hospital of Shari Tzedek in Jerusalem. So his name was Rabbi Shmuel Eliezer Al-Fandari. It's another thing that my mother told me all the time. You know that you are from a very, very Kabbalistic family, this family. We went to Buenos Aires and we had to move some bodies from the cemetery, from our family that was in the cemetery of Goyim. We had to move them to a Jewish cemetery. And we met a rabbi in Buenos Aires that was supposed to help us with this. And he wanted to know if these people were Jewish. So he asked us, who is the family? And I told him the Al-Fandari family. So he said, are you related to Rabbi Shmuel Eliezer? I said, yes, he was the uncle of my grandmother. So he said, I must tell you a story about this man. He said, my grandfather, he was the Mishamesh of Rabbi Shmuel Eliezer Al-Fandari. And Rabbi Shmuel Eliezer Al-Fandari passed away when he was 106 years old. And he said that one day I came into his room, and he was dead. He was lying on his bed. He passed away. And I wanted to go out, and then he sat down on the bed, and he said, bring me the tefillin. So I brought him the tefillin. And he put on the tefillin, he prayed, and he gave me back the tefillin. And I asked him, Rabbi, what happened? And he said, I passed away. I went to Everly Court. And I told them that I didn't put tefillin today, so I want to go back and put tefillin. So they gave me the permission. And I came back and put the tefillin, and now I'm going to go up again. And he laid on the bed and he passed away.
Wow.
So that's,
I think Saba.
kind of people. We don't have people like this today. Okay, so thank you, everybody.